Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Great Awakening Generator. I'm your host, Rose McNair. Thank you for joining me today, and I am joined by Neal from Innerlightened.
Mm.
Well, Neal is a certified wisdom and intuitive transformational life and soul guide.
Mm.
Wow. Hello, Ina.
Hello, thank you, thank you. Hi, Rose.
Hi, and how are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. I'm
That
really well. Really lovely to be here with you.
That's great. And I'm so pleased we got to do this today because you've got quite a schedule and you were very, very um, kind to us by fitting us in because
Mm.
it was kind of going up and down in terms of when we got to meet because of how busy you are.
Mm.
However, you don't look like a busy, flushed lady. You look quite calm. And I was looking at your website, and for the benefit of our audience, what is it? Innerlightenedwisdom.com? Did I say that
Just,
right?
just
Okay,
innerlightened.com.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, enlightening.com. So, all right, I'm going on speaking and I'm not even allowing you to say hello to everybody. So, here we go.
That's
So,
okay.
so how is your day? If I
It's
didn't
really
ask.
well, really good. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you. For me, it's a gift. It's my joy to be able to just share this work and help people to awaken and recognize that they have wisdom within them. So my joy, my pleasure is to just share in any platform, any avenue, whether I'm working with someone one-on-one or in workshops or even just doing an interview. If it taps into something that someone says, "Ooh, that makes sense for me," then I'm always like, "Yay!" Because then they get to explore that whichever way they go, whatever suits them.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for giving us this gift because,
Mm,
we're so lucky to have it. We're so blessed, for want of a different word.
mm.
So before we go into the work you're doing and the offering you have to the collective, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Mm. Um, so I'm a mom of four. I was very, very blessed to I was born in the Ukraine, raised in New York, and have lived here in New Zealand for almost 17 years now. And I'm a mom of four. So I became a mom in my early 20s to a boy and a girl, and then had a really big gap, and then became a mom again to again boy and girl. So I almost have two lots.
Uh-huh.
um,
Nice.
and very blessed. They're beautiful children. I have a partner, and he's from New Zealand, which is how I ended up here. And so I guess the reason why I'm sharing the details of their ages, because two of them are now adults, and two of them are still living at home. One is a teenager, one is about to become a teenager. I was very I guess you could say I was very much in my humanness as a first time mom. I lived in the five senses. I lived in the human world. I lived with a lot of fear, you can say. I lived with the way that I was taught and trained from the people that I grew up with. And they were, of course, taught and trained by the people that they grew up with. So we pick up all of these beliefs, and some of my core beliefs were that life was very hard or is very hard. That suffering is something that we cannot be or live without. And I raised both my older kids like that. And then when I came to New Zealand, and it was about 10 years ago, so I have a background in psychology from my early 20s, and then came to New Zealand. And after having my fourth daughter, I dived into studying again in the mental health field here in New Zealand, and went back to university. And one of the reasons why I did that is I wanted to be in service. I knew that it was my last child. I was a stay-at-home mom pretty much all that time. Um, so I wanted to be in service, but really the deepness of it is I thought something is off in my life.
Okay.
Everything feels hard. And I don't know if your audience or you can relate to this, but everything that I
Absolutely.
did felt really hard.
Yeah.
Anything from making the bed to doing dishes to doing the laundry, and more importantly, to interacting and connecting with my children and my husband and my life just felt really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so I went back to university for a diploma in mental health and realized there wasn't very much there that was solution based. I was learning about diagnoses. I was going out into the field, already starting to work, and realized that what I was experiencing in my life was actually getting worse and worse and worse. And what I didn't realize is I had a severe case of social anxiety. I was a very, very high functioning person that experienced deep, deep fear and depression.
Right. Right.
Yet always being out in the world, it's almost like, when you look at somebody in the world and you say, "How are you doing?" and they're like, "I'm fine." That was me. Everything seemed really fine, but inside there was something off. And so while I was studying, I started to, I really, really, to be honest with you, I really didn't want to be here. I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I would wake up very late. I would wake up very last minute because I knew I had to do all the things that I had to do, getting kids to school. And I did all of
Yes.
that. And I was really good at it on a whole. But I didn't want to be doing it. So everything was last minute, everything was very rushed, everything was very painful, everything felt very hard. And I share that because I know a lot of people can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so during this whole process of being in university, of having, little children and teenagers in the home, and noticing that my relationship with them was so triggering. It was that thing of, if you just did this, I would feel better. That was my
Yes.
language. My life is
Sounds
too hard.
familiar.
And if you
Yep.
could just pick up your clothes off the floor, I would feel
Yep.
better. And
Yep.
if you could just get your grades up, I would feel better. But
Yeah.
it never actually felt better, no matter what they did. For a minute, maybe. For a minute,
Yep.
maybe.
Yep.
Nothing beyond that. And so one morning I had just woken up, and I actually woke up really, really early that morning. And it was dark. I stepped kind of outside into my garden, and I heard this, and I felt this quietness come like just wave on me. And I thought, I have never felt or heard a quietness like this in a long time. So there was a familiarity about it,
Yes.
but it wasn't something that I was practiced in. It wasn't something, and maybe again, some of the viewers will relate to it. It's like there's a moment where you feel this quietness and this peace, but it's fleeting. I
Yes.
kind of jumped into it, but then I jumped right back
Uh-huh.
out of
Uh-huh.
it.
Yep.
Um, and I stayed there long enough to ask the question of, what is this? And how do I get more of it? And I got this message that kind of dropped in for me, and it was, well, listen. And I thought, what am I listening to? And so I decided to have this conversation with this connection that I was having in that moment. And I thought, well, I'm always in my head anyway, and I'm always talking
Yep.
to myself anyway. But this conversation felt different. Whereas before it was judgment, it was fear, it was
Yes.
things
Yes.
that I hated and the discomfort and the suffering of it. And this time it was this curiosity. And the question came through for me was, what if you're doing this all wrong? Now, I know now that there is no wrong or right.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
can go deep into that, but I won't. But I realize now, but in that moment, that was the only way that I could hear it. And so it was given to me in the way that I could hear it. And I thought, well, if I'm doing this all wrong, how do I do it right? And in that moment, this book had dropped in to my mind, and it's a book by Wayne Dyer,
Yes.
and I think it was you must believe it before you can see it. And I had it on my bookshelf, and I've never opened it. And I remember that morning driving kids to school. I was in a little bit of a trance or a daze, and I thought, what was all that? I was really curious. And I came home from dropping them off at school, and I kind of plopped myself on the couch, and I threw on YouTube, threw on my earphones, and sat on the couch literally for 6 hours. I didn't know that it was that long until it was like, oh my goodness, I have to go pick them up from
Oh,
school.
wow.
And I listened to Wayne Dyer all that time, and something resonated for me. And it was about intuition. It was about aligning with who you are. It was about healing. It was about meditation. It was all these different kind of messages that came through. And I thought something makes sense there. And so I decided to dive deep into the awakening to what it is that he was sharing. And I started
Yeah.
to dive deep into other teachers and other mentors. And I made that more important than anything else. So for
Right.
about 8 months, and I can remember one time early in my process, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I wish I could just run away to the Himalayan mountains or some sort of meditation place and just go there for a year. And what came for me was, if you do that, it's okay, but you're going to have to come back into this life's chaos and redo it all again, because
Mm.
it's really easy and great to meditate
Yeah. Yeah.
in in a cave or in a retreat or anywhere like that, where you are surrounded by quietness, where you are surrounded by teachers. The key is to do it in life.
Yeah.
And so I decided to do that. So I still did cleaning, I still did cooking, but my core work on a daily basis was, how do I awaken more of who I am more? How do I listen? What am I guided to do? What am I guided to feel? And after about 8 months, I kind of looked up and I realized that as I was changing within myself, my children began to change, my relationships with them began to change, my relationship with my partner began to change. And I thought, oh my goodness, something here, there's something here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was working in the mental health field at that time while I was studying as well, and began to take some of these processes out into with the people that I was working with.
Okay.
They were beginning to become curious, and I thought, okay, there's work here to do in this field. And so then I asked the question of, how do I teach this to my children? And how do I teach this to other children? And so in that day, I can remember a certification course had popped in for me, and it was becoming a certified wisdom life coach for children, teaching through stories. I actually have a workshop coming up here in New Zealand. It's an in-person, and I can share about it later. It's
Yes,
coming
please.
up in
Yeah.
the second week of the school holidays. Um, and I began to, and I dived in. I became certified in wisdom, intuitive teaching. I became, teaching children, practicing how to go within, how to tap into their intuition, how to recognize when here's anxiety. Oh, this is what it feels like in the body. And
Yeah.
here's peace, and here's what that feels like in the body.
Awesome.
And
Wow.
how do I honor both?
Yeah.
And all of that evolved, and I started to do these beautiful workshops. At first, I was offering them in libraries for free, and people said, "Well, I want a more extended course for my child." And I've been running that for about 7 or 8 years now. And then parents started to come in and say, "Okay, when are you going to teach this to us?" So I created my own courses online for parents, and that all evolved. And so I work with all ages. I work with children, I work with parents, I work with group, families. I bring everybody into this space of taking the human part of who we are, honoring that, recognizing that our emotions are our guidance system, recognizing that we've picked up, beliefs and through traumas, through different experiences. I'm also certified and work deeply with people both with big T traumas and little T traumas. So big T traumas are things that have happened to people in their life that are traumatic, any kind of violence or abuse in any way.
Mm.
But then there's
Yeah.
also that little T trauma that there's, when parents are not fully awakened with their children, when children are
Yeah.
little, they're defining that experience that they're observing. Maybe parents argue a lot, maybe there's
Hmm.
financial challenges and
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
might say something. Children pick that up. So I do all these kinds of healing work so that they can emerge. So in my work, whether you're an individual or a family or a child or a parent, my work is to take the human part of who we are, honor
Yeah.
that, recognize the soulful part of who we are, because that's the bigger part of who we are,
Yes.
and how
Yeah.
to merge that together and live in this life. It's not about running away and meditating in some corner, but it's about embodying all of who we are, being able to live life through that space and hearing our guidance, hearing our wisdom. We all have that wisdom within us, and I help and guide people to becoming aware of it and learning how to listen and be with it while still honoring the human part of who we are.
Wow. Wow. That's an amazing introduction. And wow, I really love what you do. I think it's such a necessary thing.
Mm.
And what a journey you've had. And
Mm.
when it comes to feeling like you need to go away somewhere and meditate in isolation for 12 months or whatever, I mean, we've all had that at some point or the other where we just wanted to leave the life and go.
Mm.
And I'm amazed at how the intuition shows you how you can't do that because because you're so busy with your life, you forget about that thought in the first place and you get on with it, but it finds you something that you can do and that you can make work every day, part of your life. And even, you know, you become so a part of your life that even if you got up one morning and you didn't get to do your 5-minute meditation or your 10-minute meditation, you'd still be okay because you had done the work already for all the time prior to that. And it's really about the inner work, isn't it? It's about saying, well, no matter what's happening in my world, I have to figure out why I'm feeling like I'm feeling. And I have to find the tools to ensure that I can be empowered. And therefore, we have people like yourself and many other intuitive teachers that can offer that too, because sometimes we need a helping hand, you know. Sorry, I just feel like my chair is just, I have to say this, it's just seeming to bring me all the way down, and I need to figure out what that's all about, because now I feel like I'm going under the desk. So sorry about that, everyone. Sorry, Ina, that's going to come out on your on your conversation here. But anyway, I want to come back to this. I really liked your introduction. I reiterate that point. I think there's going to be so many moms and so many dads and humans that are going to say, oh, I know what that feels like. You know, that feeling of, I don't want to be here. What the heck am I doing here?
Yeah.
Why am I here? It feels like everything's gone. I've gone through something like that in more recent times, and really wondering, what is my purpose on this planet? I think that happens when children's lives are changing as well. I don't know. There's no one trigger for it. It just happens because perhaps that is a question we all come to at some point in order to make the changes that take us to places higher, for want of a better word, higher spaces than we are at that point in time, right? And then where we are at that point in time. So I want to come back to certified wisdom and intuitive transformational life and soul guide. I think that's a very beautiful, beautiful title, or to have. Well, I don't know if it's title, because it's not really about I'm titled like this. It's about what I do, isn't it? It's about the essence of me and what is my offering to the collective. And so, I mean, we know that you are obviously certified to do the things you are doing. You understand the mind because you've had the psychology background. You've worked in the mental health field, like you were saying. So how does this wisdom and intuitive transformational life and soul guide come into play?
Do you mean, what do I do?
We're going to come to what you do. I just want to understand how you come to that calling yourself that.
It just evolved. It just absolutely evolved. The wisdom and intuitive part is that we all have wisdom within us. We all have wisdom within us until we begin to look outside of our world and begin to give it away, right? When babies are born, they have wisdom within them that they can shout as loud as they want, unapologetically, to have their needs met.
That's right.
Right? They have that natural wisdom within them. And then, growing up, what happens is when we, from a practical kind of perspective, children are like sponges until about the age of 7 years old.
Yes.
So I don't know about you guys or anybody that's watching, but I wasn't raised, and I was raised with a beautiful family that loved me deeply, yet they weren't a very conscious, um, they didn't
Yeah.
tap into their wisdom and guide me into helping me awaken to my wisdom, right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
were they were coming from a place of their own fears and their own
Yes.
traumas. I was born in Ukraine, and back then, it was the Soviet Union, and there was fear. We're also Jewish, and so um, there was a lot of prejudice. And my mom used to share with me, that they would have, things thrown at their window. So there's a lot of fight or flight and fear that they
Yes.
grew up in. And
Mm.
so as much as my parents loved me, there was a lot of fear in things. So they didn't teach me that I have wisdom within me. And so up until about 7 years old, we're like sponges, and we define what others are telling us over and over again. You don't know, I'm going to tell you what you should do,
Mm.
right? As
Mm.
parents do that. I did it with my two older kids,
Yep. Yep.
you know? And so we forget that we have that wisdom.
Yeah.
And what I do is I take people into experiences, practices that, oh man, oh my goodness, I do know what my next best step is. And the more we do that, we awaken to it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that wisdom and intuitive.
Yeah.
Transformational is just when we begin to live life from that space, we completely transform our life.
Mm. Mm.
I went from a stay-at-home mom that felt like life was completely um, purposeless and very, very painful and suffering, to a life where I get to do this kind of work. And it doesn't feel like work. I had to define the word work for me in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also have beautiful transformational relationships compared to what it was like to now with my children. And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that challenges don't come up, but it means that I can show up to those challenges. And even
Yes.
though I can feel pain around it or heaviness around it, because that's just my body reminding me that there's something that needs to be paid attention to,
Yes. Yes.
I can still show up, and I can still feel that calm and peace within me. And guide, the human and the soul bit is, I don't want to deny my humanness. That's
Yeah.
not, I've come here on purpose to be in this human body.
Yeah.
So I want to bring it together. I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge the soul that I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Our soul is love. Our soul is beauty. Our soul is light. Our soul is huge and expansive and just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
want to feel that as I'm living in my human life.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's what I do, is I guide people into that space.
Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful is that? That is too amazing. I love how you explained that. And also, I wanted to say, so you've taken the mental space and connected it to the esoteric or the intuitive space.
Mm.
And from that, people are finding transformation and evolution to living a more empowered, peaceful, loving life. It's not just existing and wondering, what am I doing here?
Mm.
So I love it. I just think that's an amazing thing, and it's quite an intricate thing to do. If you are, it's quite an intricate thing to do, but you have worked out how to do that. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
know,
And I appreciate, and I'm humbled in the way that you say it, but at the same time, I want to say that we all have the capacity for it.
I am sure we do.
And we are
Yeah,
all unique in the way that we can express it as
yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I am sure that we all do. It's just about finding that way, and of
Mm,
course, you're offering the key to it, the tool to teach the tool to go through the tool with people. So tell me how it works then. You have inner lightened, and that is your business. And you
mhm.
operate out of there, and you work with people, you work with family, you work with children. So tell me how it works in terms of
So,
how your process works, firstly. And then I have another question following that, but I'll let you talk about this first.
so process, you mean by my audience or the people, my
Yeah,
clients that come and
your
work with me?
clients, how does your
Yeah,
clientele?
so I do work one-on-one.
Okay,
So and I call them journeys. It's a 3-month journey where
okay,
I guide you through the process, and if anybody's interested, they can reach out to me, obviously, and I can explain what that looks like. So I work through one-on-one. I do mind, heart, life skills for kids workshops,
Okay.
and I have one coming up, and that's for children ages 7 to 12.
Okay.
And it's in a small group setting, and they're very beautiful, these kinds of settings, because even though they're small, we're still in a group community, and children feel very, very safe. And it's not that children need to express their most deepest and darkest fears.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're safe to be in a space where they just express what comes up for them in that moment. And some children are a little bit more silent, and some children are a little bit more expressive in language. And what's great is that every child can look at each other and say, "Oh, me too." And I teach it through stories, so children don't feel like they're being lectured. We do kinesthetic activities, and we do a lot of practices of coming into this is what the soul feels like. I don't use
Yeah.
necessarily the word of the soul. I more relate to them from the perspective of what does it feel like to be in your body? And then what does it feel like when there's emotion coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that all is welcomed in every space. And I've worked in schools where taken the same exact workshops into schools, and I've worked in schools where I shared the program with leadership students.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
I've worked in schools with groups of children that have had trauma in their life, and everything in between. So it's not specifically for children that are experiencing heavy stuff or challenges in their lives and don't know what to
Mm.
do, or for children that are already kind of awakened. It's for everyone, and we can all be in that space, because the guidance is what does it mean for you? How do you resonate
Yeah.
with it? And
Yeah.
then we move into that space, and everybody takes away exactly what they need for their highest and greatest good. I
Good.
also do online group programs with adults, whether they're
Right.
parents or whether they're individuals, or even, somebody that is wanting to transition from one career to another, or just wanting to find joy. There's no right or wrong.
Okay. So I'm hearing, because my next question was going to be, so what kind of people come to you? So I'm hearing that there's a lot of children in this. However, you just said parents come to you, but also somebody who's not a parent, who's just wanting, obviously wanting to have a better, peaceful life and be able to live a balanced, I suppose, aligned, grounded life, for want of a better word. Uh, Despite what is happening, despite the perils and the knocks that life can throw at you, or the current climate in on
Mm,
the planet can be like,
mm,
right? So I'm hearing it's for all people.
yeah.
So I guess we have to say to everybody, hey, this is for anyone who feels like they need to have that kind of transformation, or they're looking for answers to how do you get out of what I call, my words for it, how do I get out of this weird funk I am in?
Hmm.
Because that's what I refer to my experience of it as, like, why don't I want to live here? Is it because I feel my time on earth is done? And
Mm,
whilst I'm not suicidal, I just want to find the value of my life. I want to find the purpose in it. A lot of us are coming to that, what is my purpose here question,
mm,
right? At the moment. I don't know if you're finding
mhm.
that, but I'm finding a lot of people talking about, what is my purpose here?
Mm, mm.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
I I believe that people often will look at the purpose of this big picture of I need to change the world, or I need to do something that is
Yep.
impactful. And what I know for sure, and at least in my life and in people that I work with, again, no matter what age they are, is our purpose is to experience that love, that presence, that peace, that freedom,
Yeah.
that joy in our lives. And when we are experiencing it as that, when we are being in the vibration of that, when the juice within me, and when I say juice within me, I'll refer to something that Wayne Dyer, I went to see him actually here in New Zealand when he was here. I
Okay.
forgot how many years ago, but he had actually passed just after that.
Oh, wow.
Orange. He was on a stage, and he had this orange, and he said, "This is an orange, and if I squeeze it, obviously orange juice is going to come out, right? I'm not going to squeeze out apple juice. And the same goes for us, right? If I am being in joy and freedom and peace, when I have something that's squeezing me, and it's, we are going to have experience in our lives. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who you are, you're going to have an experience. We've
Yeah.
come here to have these human experiences.
Mm.
So if I'm experiencing joy and freedom and peace and love within me as the vibration and frequency of that, then when I'm squeezed, that juice of that is going to flow out of me.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
I'm experiencing anxiety and fear and discomfort and judgment, when I'm squeezed, that's going to come out. And it's
Yeah.
not a right or wrong or a good or bad. It's not a judgment of you're wrong and you're right. It's more from the perspective of, when I'm squeezed, I yell. When I'm squeezed, I run, right?
Uh-huh.
That's that brain and the adrenaline and the hormones, because I'm actually a
Yeah.
scientist at heart and really needed to know all of that as well from a physiological level and what
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
to our bodies. And so when I'm squeezed, if I'm reacting, then something within me is actually emitting what I am being. And so
Yes.
our purpose is to come into and it's our natural state to experience peace and love and joy and having that wisdom
Yeah.
come from me. And when we are aligned with the purpose of ourselves, then the gifts that we've come here to be in, the wisdom, the intuitive stuff start to come through. And I get to then share that with the world, whether it's in my business or in service or just even as a parent, not just as
Yeah.
the most
Yeah.
important things.
Yeah.
If my purpose is to be a parent to my children, what kind of parent am I being when they're squeezing me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even a business owner. If I'm worried about my business or worried about finances or worried about things and I get squeezed, what's going to come out of me?
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
our purpose is to first align with our highest and greatest selves. And then our purpose is to share it with the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. So beautiful. My next question was, with the current climate, are you finding you're getting more clientele? Are you finding people need more of this? And I know we're probably going to find that many people are going to say, are going to be thinking, hey, Rose, how can you ask a question? Obviously. Um, but um, I think it's more about evolution, the evolution of the soul that's causing more people to come to something like this, right? Is that what you think?
Yeah, I'm finding that people are not needing it. I'm finding that more people are asking for it. I'm finding more people are awakening to their soul, to who they
Yes.
are. I'm
Yes.
finding more people are choosing it. And I have a mentor, I have a guide. I've had one from the beginning and continue to have one. And
Okay.
so we're not supposed to, from my perspective, we're not supposed to go at it alone, even though, yes, we have all the wisdom within us, but we are human beings and we still have those kind of blind spots, what people might call stuck energy. And I work
Yes.
a
Yes.
lot with energy. And having a guide helps you to let go of that energy, clear that energy, and then I get to step more naturally into my natural state. And
Yeah.
so I'm finding that people are asking it more,
Yeah.
where a few years ago, when I would get people that would come to me, it would be from more of a perspective of you're my last resort.
Ah,
I've been
yeah.
through psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists. I've done this kind of therapy. I still feel like I'm not really moved. Yes, there's a little bit of awareness. I'm not really moved. So I'm more of that last resort. Whereas
Yeah.
now I'm finding people are coming and saying, can you just show me?
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's for me, there's such pleasure in that because I see more and more in my conversations with people, they're speaking a different language that they wouldn't want
Yeah.
speaking a few years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
There,
yeah,
there's a vibrational shift energetically
yeah,
on our planet, in the universe. There is, we know that.
yeah,
We've
yeah.
just gone through some big things. You know, if I could just speak to this for a moment, because
Sure.
parents will probably be listening to this, is, a lot of parents are recognizing that their children are experiencing anxiety
Yeah,
or depression or darkness, and they're blaming it on external things, and I get that, and it's a whole other conversation. And I mean external things like something had happened to them, or
mm,
they're not doing well in school, or devices and computer and internet and social media and all of that. I get that. At the same time, for me, what I'm recognizing is um, our children are helping us to awaken and ask for something different. And yes, they're feeling it. Yet, from what I notice and I do in the work that I do, it is not a diagnosis, even though it's great to have language to what it is that they're experiencing. It is just an awakening in them that this energy that is no longer serving them coming up, and I guide them, whether it's their children, again, whether it's the parents, whether it's just the individual, of
right.
letting that go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So nobody's broken, if I could just share that.
I like it.
And nobody needs fixing. It is just a matter of, can someone guide you, whoever you choose, to let go and awaken to who you really
Yeah, yeah.
are. Mm.
I just find that this is more an alignment at the moment. We're things that are happening, people that are recognizing they need things like this. It's about the fact that they're awakening, more
Mm.
of humanity is awakening,
Mm.
and they start to recognize quickly what it is they're needing, and then they go looking, okay, what, at different things, and then they find, okay, right, so I think that could work for me. It's about alignment. It's also how I was thinking about it as you were speaking. I would say it's about fulfilling your soul purpose. Your soul knows what you need, and then as soon as we start this awakening process, we become more in tune with the soul, and it guides us to those things that help us to in my opinion, I call it the journey to self. Who am I truly? Who am I
Mhm.
really? What am I doing here? I'm here
Mhm.
fulfilling my purpose, and it's like you're fulfilling your purpose here on the planet, um, with what you're doing, offering the collective this amazing way to I suppose develop over the soul's awakening or the soul's journey in this time to self.
Mhm.
So it's very much about alignment, and I like that more people are looking for alignment rather than, oh, I just need this, it's the last resort, I don't know where else to go. So it's not a desperate attempt, it's about understanding what they need and actually going to get it. Yeah,
Choosing it.
yeah,
And I think what's also happening for all of us is, and I'm noticing that more and more, like I shared before in my story, 10 years ago I wanted to run away to the Himalayan
yeah,
mountains and do my meditation, and I knew for sure that I'm going to just come right back and have to
yeah.
redo it all. Not that there's an exit ramp to any of this work, we're always in the beginning. But what I wanted to say is, what I'm noticing that's happening, it's not about saying, oh, I meditate, or oh, I breathe, or oh, I do these things. It's about bringing it into the human experience.
Yes.
It's about living in the human experience through that alignment, through
Yeah.
that connection to
Yeah.
who I am. I would say it's not even that profound. It's just finding my way back to what has already always been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're all coming to that place where we're recognizing, like you had said, there was something else out there. And we want that something else because in that fleeting moment, you felt something and you
Mm.
wanted more of it, right? In your experience.
Mm.
And I have to say, for me, I have had it, I've had that something else for a very long time. And then I lost it. I lost it about 2010. I couldn't find that thing that made me feel all peaceful and all of that. And it actually was a way, if I look back at it, it was deliberately done so that I can come to where I am here
Mm.
now. And it was part of how my journey was meant to be in this time and space, and I've really, truly, clearly heard it about 2 months ago.
Mm.
You know, that the way you were expressing it, where you had that feeling, you sensed that thing, and it was almost like it was fleeting. And I had it, and I also had it in the morning, because I always find that I have great insight from my intuition in my waking hours, you know, and and that's what happened to me. And then I suddenly start to come alive. I haven't been living unsuccessfully, but my journey has been, yeah, the first, it's almost like that for almost 10 years of awakening, to come to this point has been quite interesting. You know, it's part of the process. And I've been here and been able to be there for everyone else but myself, which is a strange thing, right?
Mhm.
But anyway, here we are.
It's what we're
I
taught. It's not, again, it's not wrong. It's just what we've been taught. It's those cloaks
Yes,
that we put
yes,
on that
yes,
that gets us to forget who we
yeah,
are only
yeah.
because we've not been reminded, but it's always there.
It's always there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, that's true. And when everyone has said that to me before, I was like, oh, what do you know? What do you think? What do you mean?
Mm,
If it's always there, why can't I see it then? You know,
mm,
but you know, I've had my journey, and my journey has been a long one, and I've done a lot of learning and growing and teaching myself. So it's been all of the process. And it's nice when you can say these things, when you can say, I've also been doing the learning. I'm not just doing the teaching. I'm In order for me to do the teaching, I had to learn. Yeah,
every day.
exactly. Yeah,
Every
exactly.
day, every moment, for me, I choose it, and that's the way
Yes.
I teach it.
And I think that's it. It's choosing it. It's
Mm,
choosing it, because you could choose to do something different, but you're choosing this. You're choosing
mm,
this pathway that's expansive, and this pathway that aligns you with the true you, or the you that's there, that is the greatest you, or the greater you, and
mm.
living in peace and connecting to that, because that's the peaceful platform, or the love platform, right? Um, So at this point, we've asked you everything that we agreed to ask you in our brief. But I want to give you the opportunity to tell us anything I didn't ask you about. And I'll give you a bit of a tip here. This is where you tell us about things like workshops that you mentioned that we didn't talk about in the brief, but that's coming up. Tell us where you can be contacted, and also
Mm,
tell us about anything that's coming up that anyone who's listening and watching might be interested to get in touch with you about.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, you can find all my contact details on my website, innerlightened.com. Um, so it's inner light, ENED, innerlightened.com. I'm running a kids workshop. This is for anybody that's here in New Zealand. Depending on when you're watching um, this interview, it's in the second week of the school holiday. So it's April, I believe starts April 17th,
Yes.
2023.
Thank
And
you.
it's for 3 days. And that's in person. So, it's in Howick. So if you're kind of in the area or in the surrounding area, I remember, and I've had it a few times. I've had parents during the holidays a 2-hour drive, and they would actually get a group together, and 3 parents would do the drive back and forth,
Okay.
uh, and said it was worth the drive.
Okay.
Um, so I've got that coming up. I will also be offering soon, I don't have the details to it yet, but I will also be offering soon um, 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 an online um, an online healing and clearing session, to let go of those things that no longer serve, be able to see them and acknowledge them, and be able to let them fall away and move into that natural state, and letting the who you are float up to the
Great.
surface of life, rather than feeling like you're deep down in the trenches and not being able to breathe or
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a great one. That's a timeless one, isn't it?
Mm,
If you think about it, it's like
yeah.
that people can obviously, it's going to be one to one. Is that one? It's going to be
No,
one to
that one
one.
is gonna be in a group environment, and I do
Okay.
one-to-one, so if somebody wants one-to-one, they can reach out.
Okay. Okay,
I
that's
just want
wonderful.
to share that all of my work, there is content around understanding how the mind works, but more than that, it's all experiential. Because that's what I find working with people is it's one thing to just speak to the mind and tell them things, but it is so much more powerful when it lands in our bodies, in our experience of it. It's the same thing of I can learn how to drive a car by just reading a manual and never actually know how to drive the car.
This is
But
true.
I have to hop in. So this is the same in my work. I take you through the experiences of it so that you can go off and at home on your own be able to tap into that energy of it, the experience of it.
Yeah, that's really great. I think that's something I would find more suitable, because I could get very bored by just reading a book or listening to somebody talk all the time. But if I had to do it myself, be part of the experience, that would be really, really
Mm.
more, it'll be something I could focus on. So anything else you want to tell us that I haven't asked you? No?
Um, Other than I guess what's coming up for me is, it feels it might feel for some like, oh, you can do it or they can do it, but I actually can't. And it's only because you've forgotten how to experience it.
Yeah,
All it is. And so I guess the message that's coming through is it isn't that profound. We keep it really, really simple, keep it really, really simple, and just step, it's again going back to the driving of the car. You're not going to become a really great driver just doing it once. And so keep choosing it over and over again, and it'll land and it'll go deeper and more will come up, and letting it just be as more natural than whatever that choice is, whether you have a meditation process that you do, whether it's going out and walking in nature, connecting to nature, whether it's connecting to your breath, whatever that is, allow yourself to take the journey. Know that there's no exit ramp to this kind of work. It is always evolving, and we all have it. You are not here without your soul. You
yeah,
cannot not be, because if there is no soul, then there's just a physical body, and it is lifeless. And we know that
exactly.
for sure.
Yes.
So know that there is this beautiful soul that exists that you've just not been paying attention to, so you forgot for a while. And
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of the process here, is to remember that's the journey to self, and it's and you're so in line. If you're doing all of that, you're so in line with what you came to do here.
Mhm.
Finding
Yeah.
what the real purpose of the soul, and connecting with it, and consciously connecting with it, because we're
Mhm.
always connected to it. You can't be alive and not be connected, but acknowledging it's there,
Yeah.
understanding the guidance from it.
Yeah.
So I want to say to everybody who's watching, we are very shortly going to be coming to the end of our chat with Inna, but she has very kindly agreed to lead us through a small bit of meditation or mindfulness before we end. However, whilst you grasp that and get yourself ready in a good space, I'm going to ask the last question.
Mm.
And this will give you, our audience, the opportunity to get yourself in a space for mindfulness, right? Or meditation. However, Inna feels led to do what she needs to do or what she wants to do. Inna, the question I have for you, you've already answered my question in our brief, but I really loved the answer. And I would like very much to ask the question again, because I'd like that you say it for everyone. You said that you were born in the Ukraine, and I have, I feel a little bit tearful now. I don't know why. Um, you were born in the Ukraine. You have come from a Jewish family, and that's a whole nother topic. Another topic for another time. But I asked you, so what do you think about what's going on in the Ukraine? And I really loved your answer. And for the benefit of our audience, for anyone who ever watches this, can you tell me your answer, please? I know I stumped you. You didn't
Yeah.
expect this because I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I loved your answer. So can you share it with us, please?
Okay, let me see if I can remember it. I'm kidding. So just to honor and say, yes, it's it's a sadness that there's war, because it's our natural state to love. And when we look at an experience like this, it can be quite easy to jump into that fear, and judge and worry and suffer inside and wonder what are the people there going through. Yet for me, the way that I personally move through it, even though I don't have family there, but I have a connection there. Well, I have a connection to humanity. You don't have to be born there to
Exactly.
feel sadness or feel discomfort or feel anger, even for something that is so unjust when human life is being tortured or taken away. And the way that I move through it is first is always coming into the alignment of who I am, recognizing what can I do from this place, and noticing that even though there is this injustice happening, I also at the same time can see that there are so many people that are supporting, so many people that are standing up. It's very, very different from what history showed us when it came to war. There are a lot more people that are, supporting. So just to give you a simple example of that, somebody local here that is from Ukraine as well had decided to do a fundraiser and sell these beautiful dumplings, these Ukrainian dumplings that I grew up, my grandmother used to make all the time. And so my work was, I went and I bought a bunch of them because all of those funds were going to Ukraine. So
Yeah.
there are physical things that
Yes.
we can all do. So remembering that I must first align with who I am. And the other thing, and maybe that's what you're talking about more of, is, and I shared it, one of my mentors had asked their mentor, and my mentor related to me. And what she said was, she asked their mentor, and she said, when somebody is suffering so much, and I'm looking at it, when it's a collective community or a country that's suffering because there's genocide, because there's war, because there's death, it feels so bad. How can I not feel the pain for them? And I loved the response to it. And what they had said is that it's beautiful that you have that compassion and that love, that you want to see it. But just remember that the way that you define what they're going through is very, very different from what their experience of it is. What if they have more of that capacity to be able to move through it with more ease? And your work is to hold that space of love, hold that space of support, hold that space of what can I do to serve for the highest and greatest good.
Yes.
Mm.
Hold the light, hold the light, hold the
Mhm.
light. I really loved that because it's easy to get caught up in everything that we're hearing about and to be angry and all of that. And I went through my phase of that, as we do.
Yep.
And I have come to see more and more that I am here to do my part. And what I want to put out into the world is positivity. I want to put out high vibration. That's my focus. I want to put out building and supporting and building up people, supporting people that way, holding the light, holding the space. I don't always get it right. There are some days I will probably see something that is more divisive rather than building up. But I might, nowadays I find I might just, what actually does do that is if I share a piece of news that I heard somebody saying, there was, oh, did you share this is what's happening or how bad that is? That for me I find is divisive. But if I just keep understanding that I am here to hold the space and light and keep doing that. And how do I do that? I do my meditation, I do my mindfulness, I do all of those things. I send positive energy to anybody who needs it. I don't have to tell them I'm sending you positive energy. I can look at the situation and I can think, well, higher self, universe, positive energy. I'm sending positive energy. I'm the channel that's doing that now. There might be so many other people that are doing that. And I feel that is where we're more effective rather than adding to a negative, adding a comment that is negative or gory, even if you don't mean it to be negative, that brings the energy down. Because at the moment, there is the unseen that will win. That will win. The unseen, meaning the light that we don't see, is the light that's going to, that's going to shine brighter. That's going to bring us all through this. And like we were saying, souls have a contract, and quite often it's just about respecting. That's where that is. And I'm just going to hold my light in space.
Yeah, choosing to be in the presence of that, and then asking, what is my next best step from here? What can
Yes.
I do? This matters to me, and what can I do? And so for
Yeah.
everybody, it's going to be unique and different. Some people, it is just sending that remote energy healing in,
Yeah.
and seeing the light shining. For
Mm.
some, it's going to be making dumplings, Russian dumplings.
That's
For
right.
others,
Raising funds.
going to be buying them. For others, it's going to be donating money. For
Yeah.
others, it's going to be sending things to the country. For others, it's going to be who has, for others, it's going to be who has, sorry, I just repeated that, but who has more power, governmentally. They'll do that, noticing that there are those things that's happening. And there
Yes.
are those things that's happening. It's
Yes.
kind of like, I know there's pain there, but if you think about from a news perspective, right? If there's an accident, it's mentioned in the news, and it's understood that it's mentioned in the news, and it gets that momentum of energy going of the
Yes.
road is not safe, the cars are not safe, everything is unsafe. But what about all those other days where there were no accidents?
Yes. Exactly.
What about that, right? Acknowledging that. And it doesn't mean
Yeah.
I want to support the person that had the accident.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
about that there is, and it really stems from that state of love, compassion, understanding,
Mm.
perspective,
Yes, indeed.
rather than diving into the suffering and pain. Because when we dive into the suffering and pain, we are suffering. And then we're squeezed and everybody around us suffers too.
It's true. It's true.
Mm.
So, time for meditation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm just kind of tapping into where to go. Okay, so wherever you are, just get comfortable, get really present in your chair where you are. And I'm going to invite you to play with the awareness of your soul, of your energy. And often people think it's something separate from my body, but because I'm a human, in order for us to experience our soul, we actually have to come into the body. So wherever you are, I'm going to invite you to first begin to just take a deep breath into your body, noticing your lungs and letting the breath go. And again, taking another deep breath into the chest. Letting the breath out. And if you're not used to being in the body, it's okay. I'm going to invite you to notice the mind. Notice if there's thoughts there. Noticing if things are popping up there, acknowledging it and saying to those thoughts, I see you. I hear you. I thank you for being here. And bringing even the breath to the mind, breathing fully into the mind. And breathing out. And being that consciousness that is observing the mind, noticing what happens to the thoughts. Have they quieted down a bit? Have they become louder, remembering there's no right or wrong in this? And again, taking a deep breath into the mind. When you breathe out, I'm going to invite you to just bring your attention down through the mind, through the center of the head, down into the throat, down into the heart space, and feeling that space inside the body. And just say hello to it. Hello. Say to it, I see you. Say to it, I feel you. And say, I thank you. And bring breath again, life force, into the center of the chest. And releasing. And being this observer, what is there? What does it feel like? Is there a sensation there that is wanting you to notice? For some of you, it might be the first time in a long time tapping into that center. So it might be just a calmness, might be a spaciousness. For others, it might be an actual visual. Keep feeling into that center of the chest. And just notice what is there. And again, take a deep breath. And each time you breathe in, you're acknowledging, oh, hello. I can still see you here. I can still feel you here, just as you are. And notice that there's this presence there, the I am. You can even say that, I am. And breathe in, back into that center. I'm going to invite you to take a, as you breathe out, just breathe out with a, ah. That sounds allows the opening of that space. Ah. And just notice what that feels like. And just doing that every day, incrementally, every hour, every time you change segments, before you go into your children's room, pause and feel into that state. Feel into what is inside of me. Maybe before you hop out of your car on your way to work, taking those deep breaths in and acknowledging that there is that you that exists in this moment. And noticing that it is part of your humanness too, to be aware of this self, this presence, this light, this now moment that I feel within me, this calmness, just using language to feel. And I'm going to invite you, when you're ready, to take another deep breath and start to feel your physical body and opening your eyes. And when you do open your eyes, continue to feel that presence within you as you experience the physical world. Whether you're looking at your screen or your keyboard, whether you're looking out of a window, whether there's somebody in front of you, seeing them as you are still experiencing this inner presence. And from this presence, imagine if somebody was in front of you, how would you respond to them? How would you be with them? And just take a few more deep breaths. And here you are. How did that feel for you?
Wonderful. I love it. It was wonderful. It was wonderful because it was recognizing your heart space, but also doing it as in an everyday, every moment thing. And
That's
that
right.
I think was just beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Wow, thank you.
So I'll just share, just for anybody that's watching and that wants to just see what emerges for them. And this is something that I intuitively was called to do when I started to do this work, because, you know, you get into life and you forget that the heart space even exists.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I set my alarm every single hour. I put it on silent. And every time it went off, I tapped into that I am, that presence within myself.
Yeah.
Or, you know, with children, obviously, you know, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but, you know, setting that alarm on their phones. But, you know, if you can't do it every hour, recognize where your segments are, you know, walking out of your door, out of your home before you go out, pause and connect to the I am, and then step out into the world, hopping into your car, doing the same, hopping out of your car, doing the same, meeting with a friend for coffee, doing the same. Whatever that experience is just before, choose to tap into that I am, whether it's through the alarm system or just choosing in the segments, is a very powerful way to keep choosing that compassion, that love, that presence.
Yes, I agree. It's really beautiful experience to have. And because sometimes I've found that even when I'm out with friends, for example, having coffee, and we could all be in the space all talking, but you can connect with your I am. And I've had experiences where I could feel it calling me. It's like, hey, oh yeah, I know. You know, we're a group of people, but I can still feel you connecting with me. And I think that's a very good place to be at, because it's not being unsociable, because it doesn't have to be a point where you have to go away and do something. You just stay there and you're still connecting. You're still saying, oh, I'm having this experience, but you're having this experience with me too, because you're here,
Yeah,
acknowledging, you know, the higher you being there.
yeah. I find in this work, the more we do it, and you know, on a practical level, you know, we've got children, we've got teenagers, they've got hormones coming through their bodies as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that you're yawning a little bit.
I am, and I'm trying not to do it.
No. I get because we're in an interview, but I must say that that's actually energy falling away that
Very
is
good sign.
serving you. It's a great sign. So I'm
Very good sign.
celebrating that for you.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
thank you for acknowledging that, because I'm like,
yeah.
yeah.
No. It's I know that I see it all the time within myself and
Yeah.
my clients. It's like I'm like, no, this is the place to yawn. This is the place to be open with it because
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
energy moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so you're actually, I find that the more you do it, you realize, I realize that you're more present with your children when you're in that heart space. I'm
Okay.
more available to them when I'm in here than when I'm in here. Because in here is the thought process, the hamster wheel, the
Yeah.
worry. It's
Yeah.
okay. But when I'm in here with them and we're connecting, they go, ooh, they see, my mother sees me.
Yes.
My mother
Yes.
feels me. My mother
Yeah.
hears me. I'm safe.
Yeah. It's
Mm,
really about operating, for want of a better word, from the heart chakra, from that platform,
mm,
the platform of the heart,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And yeah, we've been, I'll say, programmed. It's always about what we're thinking, right? And then if you suddenly think about, oh, how do I feel about that? That's very different, isn't it?
mhm,
From what I
mhm,
think, oh, we should do that, but your heart is, well, let's do this.
mhm, mhm. And that's why that practice that I took you guys through is we acknowledge the mind. We're not denying it or pushing it away. We
Absolutely.
acknowledge that we actually brought
Yeah.
breath to it. We said, I see you. And then we brought ourselves consciously down into the heart
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're just beginning it, and even when you're doing it, you might be jumping a lot. It's
Yes.
okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Ina, thank you so much for
Mm,
your time today. I know that it is precious time, but I love it because you've given us so much of yourself and your love, and I appreciate you for that. And yeah, I really, please do feel free to let me know if you want to come back. You're always welcome here. And before we go, just remind everybody again where you can be contacted, please.
So you can find me on my website. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. It's just Ina Neal, INNANEAL. I share a bunch of things there. I share things that are happening and offers, but I also share a lot of little tools and little mini meditations that I take you through. So there's some
Wonderful.
yummy stuff in there, and you can messenger me through that as well. So
That's really good. Really,
mm,
really good, because you've given out so much without, just because that's your heart,
mm,
sharing with all of us. Well,
mm.
thank you for coming today. And as I say, please feel free to come back again. And
Thank you.
I'll be in touch about coming back again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
been my pleasure.
Yeah.
I've loved being here with you. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you. Well, to everyone, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. I hope you got something out of this. It was amazing. And what an incredible experience we've had today with Ina. And I will catch you next time on the Great Awakening Generator. I'm your host, Rose McNair. Bye, everyone.
Bye.